you see in the video my husband Brian. Brian's very special. That's because he's deaf. Now, being deaf means that sometimes you can hear a little bit, but sometimes you can't hear anything. You see that Brian and myself are using something called ASL. ASL is American Sign Language. American Sign Language is what most deaf use here in the United States. There are different sign languages. Different countries all have their own, so it's not a universal language. And we use ASL with Brian here at home. But some of his family is not really good at signing, so Brian will write with them. And that's really how most deaf will communicate with people that don't know sign language. So we hope you enjoy this video, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy.
This is Mia.
Hi.
And this is our youngest daughter. She is 8 years old, and she likes gymnastics and playing outside. So we're going to interview Mia to hear her thoughts on having a deaf dad. What is your favorite thing about having a deaf daddy?
My favorite thing about having a deaf daddy is when you scream or when you're like fighting with your sister, then your dad doesn't hear it and then you don't get in trouble.
What is your least favorite thing about having a deaf daddy?
My least favorite thing about having a deaf daddy is that when you're crying and you got hurt, then you have to walk over because he can't hear you and he can't know that you're hurt.
What does church look like for our family when we go to church? Can Daddy hear the sermon?
No, he can't hear the sermon, he can't hear the music, so he has to have an interpreter. And an interpreter is a person who signs the things for a deaf person. So our interpreters, they used to sit down and we had to sit in the front row, but now they're standing up on the stage and they can sign for my dad wherever they are, and he can sit wherever he wants.
Does being deaf mean that you are not as smart as other people?
No.
So you don't have to hear to be smart?
No.
How smart is your daddy?
He's really smart because he built our beds, he built a cat house, and he also built a deck for our pool.
My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion.
This is Emma. She's our oldest girl. She likes to swim, she likes to ride her bike, and she loves to watch TV, and she loves to horseback ride. So we're going to ask her a couple questions. Emma, what is your favorite thing about having a deaf daddy?
My favorite thing about having a deaf daddy is you can scream and yell and like do all sorts of things, run around, jumping, and you can't even hear.
What is your least favorite thing about having a deaf daddy?
My least favorite thing about having a deaf daddy is he can't hear my voice or the birds chirping or the animals, and he can't hear worship and church.
Can deaf people drive?
Yes. They depend more on their sight than their hearing. And once my daddy could see the ambulance before my mom could hear it.
What is something that you would like other kids to know about having a deaf daddy?
I would like them to know that it's kind of complicated to live with a deaf daddy because it's very hard because you have to sign even though you don't feel like signing because you're like all tired. And when you have to tell him something, you always have to go up to him. You can't just yell for him and then he comes to you and then you can talk to him. You have to walk over, and it's very hard to get his attention when you're trying to tell him something, but he's working and you can't get near him. It's very hard to get his attention, and it's very hard to sign when you're very tired.
what is something that you would like kids to know about your deaf daddy or about deaf people or something on that one?
Well, my dad says he can't hear. He can have better senses, so he's better at like smelling and.
Does it make you sad sometimes that daddy can't hear?
Yeah, but sometimes it makes me happy because like he's the special one in my school, so. I want people to know that deaf people are smart.
My entire life, I've had, you know, ups and downs. Some things that are difficult, the most difficult has been communicating with the hearing world. I've been able to overcome a lot in the communication department as far as communicating with hearing people. I'm able to drive. I have a full-time job. I have a wife and children. So I've been successful, and I am able to do anything. It's not been easy, but I'm really thankful that it is possible to do pretty much anything without hearing.
Deaf people are just like you and me. They are just people that can't hear. Deaf people can be mommies and daddies. They can even be doctors or teachers. Deaf people can drive and have jobs. The deaf have their own language and culture. They have songs, stories, and poems.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Sign I love you.
Our presence, my life.
Smile, Nia. Look at the camera.
Hi guys, so I hope you liked the video and it had a lot of information for you. I did want to briefly talk about, and I'm not going to sign this part because I have to really think about this, and signing and talking at the same time is kind of difficult. And I'm probably not going to feel like going back and interpreting it. So I know that you guys want to know about the deaf world and about spiritually and how the deaf can hear about Jesus and the gospel and how that's possible. Brian and myself have been married for 12 years, and in that time we've only been to a really solid church for about 3. And until that time, Brian never really studied the Bible. He never really, researched or studied because the Bible is written in such a way that even hearing people sometimes have a hard time understanding it. So for a deaf person to sit down and read the Bible, it's even more difficult and almost impossible. Most deaf people have a 3 to 4th grade reading level. So depending on the grades that you guys are, he's probably about the same reading level as you guys are right now. So it's just like you guys picking up a Bible and trying to read it without having help from moms and dads. So that's, I think, is the biggest hurdle for the deaf, is reading the Bible and growing in their own spiritual walk. The second biggest hurdle, I think, is just finding a good church that has either a deaf ministry or has a somewhere that wants to develop a deaf ministry. So that's the next biggest hurdle. Previously, Brian and I went to a deaf church, and the deaf church it didn't really have a lot of depth to it. And so we ended up needing to leave for multiple reasons. We kind of bounced around for a while until we, settled where we are now. So all that to say, if you feel led to learn sign language and to really develop it, the deaf community definitely needs Jesus. It's pretty horrible that they live here in the United States, and I believe they're the least reached people group because of the communication issues. So if you guys have any other questions about the deaf community or sign language or anything along that lines, please get my number from Holly or my email, whatever, and we can contact each other through that way. I'm so glad we were able to make this video. Everybody has been so crazy loving it. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope it had all the information that you guys needed. And just keep praying for the deaf community, because it can get frustrating sometimes, as any culture can get frustrating, but seeing what's happening within the culture and pretty much being almost powerless to do anything except for pray, which is the best thing that you can do ever, even though sometimes it doesn't feel that way. So God bless you, and I hope you learn lots this week, and keep Jesus the center of your life. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.